Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, bowing. We can hear you very well, Peter. Bowing. Good morning. Nice. Quite the good morning. Like talking in a canyon. So, good morning. And welcome to this gathering. And thank you for coming and participating in this Sunday morning Dharma talk and this community. And thank you so much for that and for your support, both by participation in all of the book studies that we have and Dharma talks. And also for your support financially. So much of that is so helpful, keeps us going, keeps the lights on, as they say, and keeps the air conditioner running. Actually, we don't need one today, but sometimes we do. So thank you. And please continue to help us if you can. This morning's Dharma talk is called, what is it called?
Receive the unwanted.
Receive the unwanted. I am going to endeavor to help you do that, help you see how you could see something that is arising in your life, in your mind, in your country, in your state, in your city, in your community, in your sangha, in your relationships, to receive that. It's so important. And we miss it. And how do we miss it? As soon as something shows up, we add. It's just what's the thing that is often said, just kind of a knee-jerk. Something happens and there's that immediate response, as it says in the third skanda, perception. Perception, we perceive, we smell, taste, touch, hear, think, feel, and we have an impulsive reaction to it. Very difficult to work with that. You could even say receive the perception that's coming, receive what is happening, and then as the unwanted, like I don't want that kind of, it just starts to arise. There's not even a stopwatch on it. It's just more immediate than that. It seems like it's arising with that. It seems like the negative feeling and your reaction to it are the same thing. But actually, if you look closely, and you can only look closely, as far as I know, there might be a magical way that I've not heard of or no one has mentioned. Doesn't seem the way there is a way that where you can be quick enough and accurate enough and precise enough to be able to just see that arise without abandoning it, without going somewhere else. Receive, it's unwanted. You don't want that emotion, that feeling. As soon as the leading edge of that shows up, it's like feeling that the weather's going to change. Some of us are very sensitive to humidity and to pressure, and we just know it's going to, something else is going to happen. Not particularly psychic, but maybe. So as soon as you feel the leading edge of that negativity show up, do nothing with it. That might be a way of talking about it. Because if you do nothing with it, then what's going to happen? It's just going to keep coming, more than likely, or it might not. It might just have enough energy to get up in front of you. And if you notice you don't do anything with it, then it might just fall apart. It might need your participation by way of what? What? The three poisons: passion, grasping; aggression, pushing it away; and ignorance, shutting down, blocking, turning away, distracting. What problem? Consciousness is very, very interesting and gets more and more interesting the more you look at it and see and contemplate the way in which you or me or any of us are enthralled with some particular thing drawing us in and repulsed by something that is, to just use the senses that don't do any thinking, the stench of that otherness, the smell, the creepiness, it's just disgust or something. Please receive that. There's nothing here to be harmed. Who you are. I'm not saying that feelings won't hurt, that it won't be disgusting, that it won't smell bad, that it won't have all kinds of negativity showing up around that. Receive that too. See if you can see. This is called discriminating awareness wisdom. Still discriminating, but it's wisdom. It just sees this happen and it sees this being added. And if you can see that, you can see the way in which you are recreating over and over and over and over, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Karma, 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 karma. You don't have to come here again. But you may not be able to help it. You may just continue to just jab away at whatever rises. Murder your thoughts or murder anything. Which precept is that? 9th?
That's
10th?
no being angry.
Oh, what's the first one?
Don't kill.
Yeah, don't kill. Don't kill your thoughts. Don't stop anything. Don't agree. Don't disagree, and don't ignore. Do nothing with it. Everything that shows up has a right, absolute, total, relative, and absolute right to be here, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And I can give suggestions about it, about the idea of using the texture when you see the negative feeling, especially if it's something that comes up every few days and has like 3 or 4 stories behind it that are very, very convincing about he said, she said, they did, this happened, that happened, this happened. And of course, the feeling is conjunct with all of that. So this is why how the sitting practice of meditation can actually begin to look at that, and slowly over time. It might take a lot of time. Some people may be able to, some consciousnesses arising as human beings may be able to begin to separate that early on. And when I say separating, I'm talking about discriminating awareness wisdom. Perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps not. Well, you're hearing about it now. What shows up is not separate from anything anywhere. But it may be a while before you see that. If you see that, then it doesn't matter what happens. Then it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're familiar with that word matter? It doesn't matter how you feel. If it matters how you feel, then you participate in this incredibly intense carnival called samsara, the Coney Island of the mind. It's not that pleasant. It's not that distressing. Yet if you're stuck right in some kind of a horror show, you may be so terrified, you may be so disgusted, you may be that you can't help but fight. You can't help but cover up. You can't help but distract. You can't help but kill. This is happening everywhere in the world. And it is especially difficult to work with when the landslide of karma, that, to use the idea of time, started way before any of us got here. This has been going on. As I've mentioned several times, the Gaza Strip did not start last week, or it did not start back in October. Events happened, of course, but that fundamental situation is just such a leviathan of otherness. But it needs to be seen, your mind, your mind, your mind. Everyone needs to see that. You need to see it yourself. And it's heartbreaking to see, when you realize you have no say-so about this. What do you have a say-so about? Find out. Find out. Don't get your information from me. Don't get your validation from anything but your consciousness. Your consciousness. I'm not talking about self-centered ego, which is believing thoughts and protecting an imaginary self, and the consciousness that is a knot that's probably right in this area here. That fearful, don't want to be embarrassed. Don't want to be, don't want to be uncovered. Don't want that. Even if it's your teacher. You don't want your teacher to teach quite that way. The teacher shouldn't be really treating me that way. Should she? We happen to have a teacher who is a woman. Just receive it. And as the distaste or as the feeling of the commentary that you don't want it starts to arise, just receive that too. You can receive the entirety. You can receive the reception. You can receive the production that wants to go against it or validate, self-validate that you shouldn't be experiencing. You don't deserve this. And society, of course, will chime in with you. You don't deserve that. This doesn't mean that if you're married to someone who's being abusive, you shouldn't get away from them. They're being abusive. Maybe you should. And in the world, because there's so few people who are actually doing what we're doing here, what I'm recommending you do is do what? Not believe in Buddhism, not join an organization. We don't have anything to join here. If you feel you're a member, then you probably are. But there's no one carrying cards or anything. Receive what is distasteful, what you do not want, so that you can be clear about who this is and what this is called your lifetime. Last October, what you were doing 3 years ago in March. What was happening? What were you moving from one room to another? Were you going to the kitchen to pick up something to take in another room? Were you going out to look in the garage to see if your partner had gone somewhere? What were you doing? You remember a lot of things. What were you doing then? March the 23rd. Is there a 23rd of March? Of course there is. That's all makeshift. All of that is made up. There's just this. The 23rd of March does not exist. There isn't anything that actually exists. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. Those are illusions, my friends. My enemies. Illusions. They're unreal. You need to find this out for yourself. Now, don't believe what I say, that everything that shows up in your mind is unreal, because it seems very intensely real. And you feel love, you feel hatred, you feel dislike, you feel disgust. You might even be disgusted with your own reactive mind, not just limited to that out there. Could be this, might be disturbing to you. Sometimes this is so disturbing, we just want to leave the planet. We've said enough of this. Don't do that. Stay here. Don't miss your life. Whatever's showing up in your life is meant to be there. I don't care how much it looks like somebody did something to you. God damn it. As my stepfather would say. God damn it, Bobby. Most important teaching I ever got from him. And his grandson, or my oldest son, still uses that. He's a carpenter. It hits his thumb. Yeah. So a little thing like that is just to be observed. We're not trying to correct that so you don't have any kind of reaction. So you're some kind of stoic Vajra master. You're some kind of a person who's never hurt by anything. You should be hurt by everything. This is compassion can't arise without pretense unless there's no pretense of being somebody better, being somebody who doesn't have feelings, being somebody who's above the fray. Life is suffering, the cause is desire, the goal is cessation, and the path is train your mind, or Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. You can do that. Those 4 noble truths of the Buddha, if you understand those all the way through each one, all the way through, you are no longer asleep. Your consciousness only, which is not a position, and it's not lack of a position. It's just the truth. Questions? Sir?
Shadow bowing, if it's not about stopping our projecting or feeling better, what does watching how we laminate allow us to do?
So eventually, by observing that, something rises, someone does something to go through the whole thing again, something happens, and then we do something with it. We're against it, we're for it, or we don't, or we ignore it or move away or distract ourselves. And so, what was your question?
Shadow bowing, what does watching that process help us with? What does it allow us
If you
to do?
can just watch that without entering into it, then consciousness is respected. The confusion is respected as something that is arising, moving in consciousness, and it is seen to be an illusion. It helps us stop doing anything. Things may still be done, but they are not done by an individual any longer. It's just consciousness. Consciousness picks this up, turns it over, and puts it back down. Consciousness only. If you see it, you have to see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, feel it, think it. You're liberated. And what is liberated? Nothing was liberated. Just nothing was ever contained or in prison. There never was a prison. Illusion. Illusion means it's appearing, but it's not. It has no substantiality to it. It's not there. But you can give it the substantiality by buying into any one of those three: passion, aggression, and ignoring or shutting down. And this is coming not just from this lifetime, but from countless lifetimes. I'm not here to validate reincarnation or even rebirth or any of that. We don't need those concepts necessarily. I'm just saying that who you are right here and what is showing up right here can be pushed on, bolstered by, or activated by, or supported by a lot of crazy stuff in the past. Your lifetime from the 3rd century. Is it necessary to go back and look through that and try to release the negativity that was showing up on the battlefield in the Civil War? Maybe. But what you could do is train your mind to see clearly. Spend some time. Go away from everybody. Socially distance yourself. Sit down. Hold still. Sit symmetrical. As you've heard me say this hundreds of times. Sit symmetrical and watch by watching things that are not moving, like a wall or a closet door. Just observe that. Just put that on receive. The visual consciousness on receive. The hearing consciousness on receive. Smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, feeling. Receive it. Receive that without comment. And if there's comments, as soon as you see that there's a comment, don't stop that. Don't fight with it, but just receive that. Be responsible for what you're producing. And if you can, do that every day. Do it for the rest of your life. You don't have to believe in Buddhism or join Buddhism or be a student of mine or send me any money. And people are not going to like to hear me say that. How are we going to pay the bills? Well, the bills will get paid or they won't. It's not important what happens. If it is, then you'll start to run your life out of cause and effect, and you'll be trapped by this circle of samsara. This has to be an intention, not a solution. There isn't anything out there. This is a spiritual path. This is not the mundane path of making your life work or getting your shit together or any of that. Listen to me. If you're here, listen to me. It's about the intention, not the result. That's relative stuff. And it is valuable and needs to be there. And some people need to live their life this way. And I'm not here to interfere with anybody. If you were to hear this and get up and walk out, I would not chase you down. I would bow to you and say, good luck to you. Because if you don't hear this truth, not that this is so wonderfully correct, but if you don't hear this, there's a strong likelihood, no guarantee, that you will continue to go in circular arena of samsara, which means life and death, cause and effect, cause and effect, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep, waking up, life and death, life and death, life and death. But if you see what this is, everything stops happening. Question?
If somebody asks for help or need or have needs and they direct them towards me,
Yes.
I'm trying to, out of the three things you said, trying to
What is
place
your,
it.
what is your livelihood? What do you do for a living?
I'm retired now.
Oh, good for you. Me too.
Never retired, but you know how that
Yeah,
is.
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah. Somebody,
it's somebody that keeps coming at me with
yes,
stuff.
please. Was that your question?
Yeah,
What do you do with that?
yeah,
Just listen, just receive, listen, take interest in there. I mean, not just act and try to get a result from them, because you may not be able to do that. You are not particularly responsible for that person or their outcomes, but you are responsible for everything you're feeling and everything that is happening around you. It's completely your responsibility, which is far from the word blame. All you have to do is receive. Is it a woman or a man?
woman.
Just listen.
Okay.
Listen, and listen with everything. If I were sitting here and I were you,
Mhm.
I'm sitting here, and could I ask that person's name, first name?
Betty.
Okay, Betty. How are you doing, Betty? Tell me what you would say. Just come up with anything. Make something
Okay.
up. Make something up.
Okay,
And while we're at it, what's your name?
Toby.
Toby? Toby? You're kidding me.
Hi.
Hi. I haven't seen you in what, 50, 60 years?
Kind of, I saw you one time in your painting shop. One time.
One time. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You look great. You look beautiful.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
She has two modes. One is to be totally charming, overly charming, you know
Mhm.
that. Well, it's been okay. I hurt my shoulder, but
Mhm.
you know, I've been good. Okay, there's that side. The other side is, it's it's not exactly spoken words. It's how can you fix me? If you were around, okay, here's an example. This is recent. A drinking problems reoccurred, and she's like 78, and it's reoccurred. And then I asked about it, and then I said, "Does that have something to do with me not staying with you?" Because I used to stay with her, you know,
did.
about each week.
Mhm.
And she's a little bit. That's kind of a.
Mhm.
And I'm doing really well at not jumping to do
Mhm.
something. I'm doing a lot better.
Do you
I
ever do
still
this?
feel her.
Do you ever do this?
No,
Do you ever do?
no.
Do you ever do this?
With her?
Yeah.
No.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just use your
You're-
body. Yes. And you have to feel that. You can't just act it out as some kind of trying to manipulate her and get her to feel better. You have to really be interested. But your body, your eye movements, how you look. Like I would ask you, did you notice when I was listening to you, I was looking all over the room?
Yes.
You did notice that.
Uh-huh.
So you weren't so tied up in your own thought process that you missed what was happening over here.
No.
Did you have any comment in your mind stream about the fact that I'm listening to you, but I'm looking over here?
Actually, no. I just, you know,
Oh, that's very
because
good.
you have curiosity and you have,
I do.
yeah. So you have curiosity as far as
Well, is that-
making a whole rather than
Oh, I'm making stuff.
not. Well, that's a trick question.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, let me give you some feedback. I think you're doing, I mean, just talking to you a few minutes, it's been many years. Been since the early 70s sometime. Yeah, I know 50 years anyway. Oh, it's nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yes, and based on what you're saying, I think you're doing fine. Just continue to do what you're doing. Don't, here it comes. Don't look, here it comes. Don't look for, here it comes. Don't look for results.
Okay.
Don't, oh yeah, don't look for it. All you have to do is give. Give everything your attention. This way and that way. It's hard to do. It's hard because we keep trying to feel, we start to feel difficult, we start to resonate with the person's difficulty, we want to rescue them, help them. But that's a misunderstanding. You're not separate from them already. You already are their feelings.
Okay, I didn't understand that right there.
Very good. Then don't go any further with it. And try to understand anything. As I say in the book studies, you need to study this material. You don't need to understand it. Because if you try to understand it in the conventional way, you'll actually cover up the deeper meaning of that called wisdom. Wisdom is not language. It's just a deep, abiding understanding that has no abider. That word? Doesn't need to work. Thank you so much. Further questions? Ondo,
Wunderbar. What is actually happening when we listen? And actually receive? What is actually happening?
not much. It's just the word for that. If you're really listening to someone, you won't know what they're saying. From the conventional point of view, you might know something, but not much. There, it's very important to just receive. And if you're missing something, or if they ask you something about what they just said, you could say, could you repeat that? You could say, I didn't catch that. I don't remember what you said. So you could interact. The interaction with the person is more important than you getting what they said. The ego mind, the self-centered mind, the power trip that's going on in the world is about controlling people. It's not about communication. It's about power. And we do this to ourselves and our own mind and to those people we come in contact with. More?
Wunderbar. What's happening within ourselves when we listen and we receive?
What is it you want to know? I mean, I heard the question, but there's something else happening there with you. What do you want to know? I can respond to that, but I want to know what you want to know when you ask that question.
Wunderbar. I'm just trying to go deeper into when you say receive the unwanted. What does it mean
That's deep
to
enough.
receive?
You don't have to go any deeper than that. Just receive it. Whatever shows up, just receive. Tastes good, tastes bad, smells good. Receive. It's called equanimity, balance, the natural balance of phenomena. If you enter into phenomena and try to push some things down, pull things up, and are selective, or you pick and choose, or what was the talk title yesterday? No one remembers that. She looks at her note.
Don't take sides.
I don't take sides. Don't pick and choose. It's not that there isn't a relative right, wrong, should be, shouldn't be, painful, not so painful, happening everywhere. But if you begin to do that, you start to shut down on your natural wisdom, your natural perception of what is going and what really does need your care. And another area over here where you need to mind your own business and don't meddle with that, because it's very easy for the self-centered mind, the ego mind, to start. Sometimes this happens with people in helping, professions, where they start to feel so responsible for people that they go too far in trying to help them, or they go too far and try to look like a person who's helpful, because the ego is so involved. Self-centeredness is so involved that they're doing a lot to try to look. We've all been in an office or maybe in a facility where someone, but maybe it doesn't happen to you, but it happens to elderly people who say, "Hi, how are you doing today?" As if you're some kind of a child or something. Kind of a pretensive, sickly kind of talk like that, instead of looking at you and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" It's condescension happening more.
So if we look at what receiving looks like, what are you doing right now for receiving?
Respect what is in front of you, always. And as Sokuzan once is paraphrasing that teaching by saying everything is appropriate. It's very good. Everything is appropriate. And why is everything appropriate? If you need a why, it's because whatever shows up has causes and conditions behind it that are, you could say, none of your business, but are even going further, you can't trace them. You can't see why this person is so angry at this person when what you see there is it's simple, just to apologize or just to stop doing that. But it's so incredibly deep and complicated. But when we start to go into the causation, we eventually will see if we leave off with the analysis, the logic, and all of the things that people are using to control everything, either for good or ill, we actually see that consciousness only is the only way to do this. Consciousness only, because consciousness only doesn't support an individual self or selves anywhere. So no world can be taken over. You can't take over someone. You try to manipulate or control someone who is consciousness only, who is liberated. You can't. You might be able to lock them in a box, but that's about it. You can't have access to their mind because there really is no singular mind there anymore, unless it's necessary, dependently risen. So unless someone needs to go to the store, they know how to get there. Unless someone needs to go out and weed the garden, they know how to do that. But it's very, very simple, situational, and on the spot. There's no future kind of thing happening. More.
Wonderful. When something unwanted shows up, it just consumes all of our senses.
Yes,
And if we begin to add stories,
we do.
and so how do you interrupt that, or do you interrupt?
You do. You do slowly and respectfully. This is why I say to those who are close to me, I often say I do everything very slowly. I'm not just going to, this is a hybrid. This is a Zen tradition and the Kagyu tradition and some of Shambhala that my teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, taught. So, but I do this very slowly. It took a long time to have a Kagyu shrine over there. Maybe not so long, a few years, but it's still, instead of just saying, well, we should make this work and we'll do this and we'll do this. So respect for what is showing up and not to cut into the impulsiveness to modify or change based on a simple kind of a reactive understanding of, oh, that needs to stop. So sometimes this is called patience. It's a kind of waiting, but we're not waiting for something. We're waiting what? As something or as someone, as consciousness. Just receive, just receive. And if there's nothing showing up to validate your wonderful receiving position, then receive that. Not easy. More?
Wonderful. I'm wondering if there's something like when we are overwhelmed by what we don't want and it's showing up and we have this physical reaction to it. Is there something we can do to include something else that's happening at the same time? Like I know you've said in the past, become aware of gravity.
Yes. So the long shot at this is to get your butt to the wall, get your body, which is just your mind in this kind of a form. Mind and body are not two different things. They just look like it. We're deluded by that. We think we can think and not and keep our body separate from it. And that's part of the confusion is in that area. So the long shot there is sit a lot, spend the rest of your life. You don't have to be a Buddhist particularly, though it may help you to have some kind of an ancient structure that's thousands of years old to support this, but sit down wholesale and watch the discrepancy, watch the asymmetry of the mind go this way and that way and this way and that way, and observe that without doing it. So eventually you realize that you're just an observer. The first 5 sense fields just observe. And it looks like the sixth consciousness of the thinking process doesn't observe. That's where the ego, that's where that obstruction and that confusion, where consciousness is so powerful that its tendency to go inside and just lock up in a body mind to be somebody who is against that or be somebody who is for that. And this is all conditioned by being a living being on a planet for millions of years. pretty hard to continue on this planet unless you're self-protective, especially a million years ago. Were you there? Yeah, you were. We all were. We've all been doing this a long time. Here we are. We've all been tigers. We've all been tigers. There's just no way. And I would also say, don't believe anything I'm saying. Not about believing anything. Don't believe it. Don't disbelieve it. Don't ignore it. Consider it. Maybe you were a human. Are we done? I'm not done. Go ahead.
Are you bowing? Is an observer apathetic?
May appear that way to others who want you to get into action and carry protest signs. They may be trying to, because they can't do what they're doing because they don't understand. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. We should march on Washington, whatever. I'm not against any of that. More.
Are you buying? Is there any activity involved with being an observer that doesn't appear as apathy?
Yes, you're receiving it. You're receiving the situation, which may have a lot of negativity and maybe triggering aspects of your consciousness that cause you to want to move this way or move that way, because you're still a living being. You still have hands and fingers and knees. You're still here. The karma that showed up in this lifetime is still here. You may be still having some internal conflicts or war. May have a surge of anger come up when you see people that are being mistreated out in your environment. But you also understand the deep, deep nature of pratitya samutpada, dependent origination. You realize that this has been going on for centuries, and for you to enter into the middle of a landslide is a misunderstanding. If you try to go into that, you're just going to get swamped. It's not that your intention wasn't wonderful, noble, altruistic, even patriotic, or whatever word you want to use. Of course it was, but it's about your self-centeredness. You want to be a person who is helping rather than you actually fundamentally want to help. If you fundamentally want to help, please mind your own business. And that way, by training the mind to see what the mind is, and you'll know what I'm saying when I say mind your own business, then you may act even more overtly than just carrying a protest sign or marching on something. It may be a more profound, deep, and even ostentatious expression of that coming out of consciousness only, not a self-centered ego that wants to look like a hero or wants to be thought of by his friends and so on as joining into the movement. This is just crazy. It's crazy to do that. Train your mind so you see clearly. If you have questions, please don't hesitate. You have more?
Kelsey bowing.
Kelsey,
Is intending to receive taking a side?
there's some kind of positionality in it, but it has to do with you receiving. And so you don't, this means that it's kind of you don't know what you're going to receive. So it isn't like there's nothing really there to join other than the reception. So all of the sense seals, sense of touch, is that taking a side? No, the side has already been taken by your karma. You're a human being. And now that you're here, let's work with what is there, which is the appearance of touch, taste, smell, hearing, seeing, and even thinking and feeling, but you're also receivers. You don't really produce thoughts. It looks like it though, doesn't it? So further question around taking a side. You're a woman. I'm a man. This goes around this way. I don't think there's any black people in here. Looks like everyone's what is commonly called white or Caucasian. So the karma, because we took sides at some point, is again showing up as taking sides. We are this because of that. This happens and therefore that happens. So go ahead.
Kelsey bowing. Sometimes it feels like the intention to receive feels like it's a seeking, like a looking for something. What is that?
it's probably looking for a credential to prove that you're receiving. So you can be someone who's receiving. If you're in an agreement or a disagreement with your fellow human beings, and if you say, "Well, I'm just trying to receive," you kind of miss the point. You don't have to convince anybody. If you're receiving, you just you won't actually have some kind of a credential that you're receiving. You won't know. In other words, to say the long story, the short story is, if you're really receiving, you won't really know it. It's that difficult to do this, but you can train yourself by looking at the mind and just having a willingness to just sit there and see that not much occurs. It takes quite a while for you or me or any of us to enter into this understanding that is very deep and beyond this world. At the same time, you're still here. You still have fingertips, still have emotions, blood's still flowing. You still eat, still get hungry, you still walk around in circles. But the fundamental understanding is way beyond this world. Go ahead, please.
Kelsey Vine, is the intention creating the credential? So is it the intention that is looking for a result?
The part of the consciousness that we could refer to as the ego, or the seventh consciousness in the Yogacara description of the 8 consciousnesses. The 7th one is the paranoid part of the mind. The mind there's so much hope and fear has gone on, it's curled up into a self-referential area of consciousness that identifies with this body complex, looks in the mirror and thinks me, I, and has those personal pronouns happening all the time. I did this, now I'm doing that. I don't know how I can help myself. I can't stop doing this. Here I am doing that again. I need to do something about this. I need to see a therapist, see a psychiatrist, see any of those. All of those are valid because they're relative. But if you happen to stumble this direction, this doesn't make this more valid. It just means that this actually opens up into the absolute. If you're interested, maybe I can help you with this. Maybe I can. But what do I mean by absolute? I'm saying ultimate, non-existence, but not by leaving existence. It's not an otherness. So the path leading to what is being taught here by the Buddha, by all the teachers down through the centuries, is a spiritual path. And it has all kinds of relative elements to it, like the one you're talking about. There may be some egocentrism or self-affirming, ego-affirming situation happening there with intending. But the fundamental intention is to receive. Eventually, what you're receiving, you actually receive what this fundamentally is, which is, fancy word for it is wisdom. Your understanding will go beyond all the relative truths. And it's possible. You can do that. You can actually, I don't know if it could be called an actual doing of something. It's more like you stop doing me all the time. Me and my stuff, my ideas, what I like, what I don't like, and you just start the path of the Mahayana, which is a kind of Buddhism, I guess, is to save all beings, serve others, put others before yourself. Quite often, people that come this way are already doing that or trying to do that in a relative way in their life. As you are, as a therapist, you're putting every day, don't you do that? You put them, well, let's see, how can I fundamentally help them? And so I would add to that, how can I help them without interfering with them? Interfering with what they personally need to see. That's a powerful kind of help. My version of that would be something similar to what Trungpa Rinpoche said to somebody early 70s, which I thought was a terrible thing to say to somebody. Maybe you should stop meditating. Not time for them to meditate. I could say that. I haven't, but sometimes people say that to me. I don't want to do this anymore. And so we'll go do something else then. More?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes. So, Corinne.
So Corinne Bowing, is there a story of bodhisattva or an archetype that has a healthy expression of anger, rage?
Yeah, I'm looking at her.
So Corinne Bowing.
You know what I mean?
No.
You do too. Tell her what I need. You know?
She's really great.
That works for me. No, please, don't mean to make light of your question. Go ahead, please.
So Corinne Bowing, you said sometimes that there are things that don't want to be uncovered, but when rage or anger or criticism are uncovered and you leave the cushion, what is, how do we work with that when it's seeping through your pores?
That's just how you do it. Look at how much you're aware of. What I'm hearing is not, I mean, I'm not saying you're not feeling it as a problem and as a kind of a failure or whatever, but this is what you have. This is your path. This is what you need to go. This is in order to fundamentally be a complete bodhisattva or enlightening being or one who serves others. It's necessary to really deal with your own negativity. And the only way it can be done, and that's just to receive it. And sometimes that sucks when you realize that your own consciousness is producing a bunch of contaminants. Difficult. Just receive them. More?
So Corinne Bowing, you mentioned to Kelsey that we are endeavoring to receive without interfering. When it appears as though those emotions are interfering with others, is there something?
No, just receive that. It will always, self-centered mind, ego mind will always find ideas and ways where it's not doing so good and you just need to stop doing this or that, controlling things. Ego wants to control. Wisdom mind doesn't care what happens, but it doesn't miss anything. It doesn't care about outcomes because it knows there are no outcomes. This is an illusion, but it is an illusion that has us by the throat. Some of us have us by the throat so exact and so precisely, and it's so painful that we are any hands that are free are not pulling at this. They're just killing other people, murdering, controlling, abusing, getting rid of that distress, that discomfort, that intense passion, aggression, ignorance that has us, and you're not doing that. The way you express yourself, you're just feeling it. You're just receiving it. And I'm not saying you didn't shake your finger at somebody. Have you murdered anybody lately?
So Corinne Bowing, no, but I'm receiving feedback that I am aggressive. Bowing.
Oh. Have I told you that?
No,
Have
no,
I ever said that to you?
no,
Who should you listen to?
you,
You should. And why should you listen to me?
because you're my teacher.
Okay. Okay. Is this a cult? Am I ordering you to obey me?
No,
Oh, what are you doing that for? Why do you give me any credit for anything? Say it.
I don't know.
Okay. No, you don't know. That's why it's so scary, the ego, because you meet somebody. I met that person also. Nothing can be proved. If you prove something, it just might be true, might have proved it, but it's relative truth. To go beyond this world, you're going to have to release your claws and your tentacles into this and that, right and wrong, up and down, back and forth. The big one that is very, very difficult to see as long as your heart is beating and your blood is flowing and your skin temperature is modulated is death and life are not two separate things. They're just two names for the same thing. Hard to see that. And that person said that to you. What did you do?
I said thank you.
It's about all you can do. Did you mean
No,
Hear that.
it? Is that a kind of a, there's got to be a joke there.
There is.
Will you get Rumi working on that for me? Rumi has Sokuzan and sent you a son, and he's learning how to tell jokes. More?
no, thank you.
You know.
You Bowing, this is similar to Sokuran's question, I think. Is
Okay.
it ever appropriate to leave a situation so that you don't have some outflow out of anger happen? Bowing?
Of course. That's of the three, of the four karmas of pacifying, enriching, magnetizing, and destroying. Pacifying, it's a way of pacifying. And that's also the last of the four karmas, which is destroying, is just destroy. In other words, break the connection. Someone is coming after you, abusing you, or trying to get you to react, because that's how people perpetuate things. Is you can't have a war without an enemy, and just the enemy just leaves. It's like the poet E. Cummings once said many centuries ago, or half a century ago, probably, or more. What if somebody gave a war and nobody came? What if somebody offered a war and nobody attended? No military, no nothing. Now they don't have mandatory draft as they did when my father went in and was killed in Germany in 1945. But instead of that, what they replace it with? Money. So now, compared to when I was in the Marine Corps in 1959, you made what it was like $90 every 3 months or something. Of course, you had a place to stay and you had stuff to do. And you had food, kind of.
You're now bowing,
Yes.
if we do have an outflow out of some anger, how do we work with the regret or the?
Well, just receive it. Anything that shows up, just if it shows up, it's yours. Not yours in the possessions, but it's meant to happen. It's like weather. You walk outside and it starts raining on you. It's like rain, it just falls on you. It's the rain of Dharma, which happens to be the first Dharma name I received. Compassionate Dharma rain. Took a long time to understand what that meant. Thank you. Any further questions? Yes.
Bowing, a question on YouTube from Joseph in Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
Joseph Bowing, what does the have to look like in don't do anything unless you have to? What does it look like to do something that you don't have to do?
Well, if you don't have to do it, don't do it. I'm not sure. There seems to be some, it's like wood splintering in there. There's some kind of splinter in there that you're actually talking about. And I think you need to ask me that question. Have to, don't have to. That's the either or that we're always living with. If you don't have to do it, don't do it. And there might be a lot of philosophy behind that. Don't have to. I don't have to do that. But it's very simple. Don't do it. It's a negative way of teaching. Don't do it unless you have to. Don't move into this monastery unless you have to. I think I've said that to people before they moved in here. And don't ask me to be your teacher unless you have to. If you have doubts about it, go away, go somewhere else, because you're operating on evaluating this person. Should you evaluate? Going to have to do some of that, of course. But there's no way you can see what this is. That's why it takes some, guts, some nerve to do this. It's not because this is so great and some people are ready for this. They're wonderfully valuable people. The other people are, not. I don't mean to set up a polarity like that, but don't do anything unless you have to. You'll know what that is. Joseph, you can come back and rephrase that question. If there's a deeper question, maybe I can get to a deeper response. Beyond
bowing, you say receive the unwanted, and I just want to know how this might be different than observing the unwanted.
No, it's similar. You're observing. Receiving might be more like feel like you're having it crammed down your throat, rather than there's a little bit of the illusion of choice. So I think it comes into that area. Sometimes the observe may be more appropriate to just watching the camels walk by. And another one may be the camel steps on your foot. So you could receive the pain rather than beating the camel. Isn't that a great example? You didn't think so? You didn't laugh. Why didn't you laugh? Oh no? That's a good response. I don't know. Yes,
Mazuka bowing, you brought up discriminating awareness wisdom earlier.
yes.
Can that show up on the path, or what might the function of that be on the path?
It just, the idea that it's kind of a fancy set of words that just is basically just saying that you'll see the differences in something and it'll be choiceless. You'll know what to do next. You're looking at that and you're looking at this, and rather than weighing them as outcomes, you would just find yourself doing this because you wouldn't have a conversation with yourself. Well, this is just a wise choice. Someone might ask you, why did you do this? Just like this monk right in front of me. I said, why did you do this? She said, I don't know. That's discriminating awareness wisdom. You know what to do, but you don't have some kind of baloney behind it, backing you up. It's sometimes when it's referred to as the wisdom of insecurity. This does not fuel the ego. The ego cannot get security from wisdom because the very nature of wisdom points out so that you can see that self-centeredness is unreal. It's there. This completely vain, self-centered old man has not gone away, but I see that it's unreal. I see that my own vanity, my own self-centeredness, my own fear of being judged is right here. It's right here all the time. Very, very concerned about what everybody thinks. 50 years ago, I could not do this. I met you 50 years ago.
Yes,
You see the same person sitting up here?
yes and no.
I like that. That's kind of like non-dual. Yes and no. Yeah. Same baloney, right? Different sense. Yes.
Mazuka bowing, I think the context that came up in earlier, you were talking about, it's my paraphrase, delaminating perception and impulse. We're just
Yes,
being-
yes. Seeing that would be like that. Discriminating awareness, being able to see the difference between what arises and what you add to it. Is that what you're asking about?
Mazuka bowing, is there a difference between discriminating awareness wisdom, seeing that, and trying to tease something apart or trying to investigate?
Yes, don't tease anything apart.
How do they show up differently?
One is thinking about it and trying to deconstruct it, which is valuable. In some places you need to deconstruct. The situations like this, here's the matrix that is the issue. You need to deconstruct that. Think about it. Like we're working with the battery. What is the charging issue with the recumbent bike that we were working on yesterday? Wouldn't you say that you were kind of teasing that apart, trying to find out what, okay, here's where it's charged at, and here's the green light that says that it's charged, but it's not charged. So we're kind of going in there. I'm not doing it because I'm too lazy. I'm sitting in a chair watching Yuzan and Hondo and who else was all, yeah, Byun was there too. We're all trying to look at that, trying to tease it apart. So that's the situation where you need to do that because it's very pragmatic, fundamental, solid situations that are interlaced. But in the mind stream, that's not the case. It has the appearance of being workable in that way. And ego jumps right in there and is relatively successful. Your whole life can be made up of just a vast network of confusion and of controlling others and not being really concerned about the welfare. Like what is it in the politics these days? There's all this controlling of women. Don't. But then once the baby's born, then nobody wants to take care of them. Just it's a sickening kind of ignorance that's happening, and it's not all old white men, but a lot of it is that. And some people join on to that from different biological situations. Yes.
Mazuka bowing, how much, or should there be energy or effort on the cushion or intentionality to delaminate, to see the difference, for instance?
The intention is, yes, the intention is good, but how you do that, it's just the intention. You have to be very precise there to not fix anything. You do not have a say-so about anything. If you think you're in control of anything, maybe you can control this, But even that is an illusion, but it's a part of the illusion that, and is what is, it's illusory that something changed something else. That is the illusion. This is the illusion that you have to see through, not some wispy incense smoke. And you know, it's not that. No, it's the solidity of the illusion that makes it so damn convincing. And in the mind stream, we want to go in there and pull that apart in the same way. So you can do it with intention. You can see that there never was a lamination. That's why you don't have to delaminate it. Whereas if it's a situation with something practical, then we may have to go in and say, well, after looking at it, it may show up, and maybe after talking to the manufacturer, it may show up that that battery is defective. You have to get a new battery, or the terminal where the charger is plugged in is defective, and it's just sending a wrong message to the green light or red light. Isn't that, is that pretty precise? You think Google would hire me? No, they wouldn't. Sweep floors maybe, which I can do. Very good. So I think we're at the end of our session here. So thank you so much for your attention and for your questions and so on. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
May the merit of this penetrate into 12 places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Ji-o san chi fu shi so bu san o bu san mo bo ja o bi. Let the directions of three kinds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions of the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokokoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.
Oh, yes. After, what time is that going to be?
Now.
Right now, so right now we're going to go over to the house that was donated by Sokuzan to Sokokoji Buddhist Community, Buddhist Monastery, and we had a plaque made to the house is named Mountain Pass. Is that right? I named it, but he bought it, and so it donated to us. I had a plaque made, bronze plaque that put on the side of the building. We're going to go over and take a picture of Sokuzan and me standing and like so, and anybody who would like to come over is welcome to be in the picture. I think we're going to go up first on the plaque and then back up, and we'll see the 2 most important people. They're me and you, and yeah, you can be there too, and anybody else that wants to come over. So is that what I was going to announce? No, thank you.
March right out of here.
March right out of here and do that. Yes, we're going to march right. No, I'm going to the restroom first. So thank you very much. But we can meet over there.